hopefully you're enjoying the country music. It's not Northern Irish, but it certainly is good country. Uh, ladies and gentlemen, Maria Mafucci is with us this particular evening. She's the editor of the Human Life Review and the organizer of that organization. You took over for your father. Now,
Hmm.
from that organization, you stated that he created that in response to the Supreme Court's decision on Roe v. Wade. I have to be a devil's advocate here and ask you, why are you so staunchly opposed to women's health care? Isn't abortion part of women's health care?
No, um, I care deeply about women's health care, but abortion is the taking of an innocent human life, the life of that woman's child, and that goes against the essence of what it means to be a mother.
Now,
And
you
that's
you
not
know
how women get power, by killing their children.
well, you know that mothering can happen by accident. Things happen by
Or,
accident.
yeah.
And, it would be psychologically disturbing for a woman to have to carry an accident for 9 consecutive months. What is your response to that?
There are absolutely some terrifically difficult situations with unexpected pregnancies because life is tough. Lots of things happen that are really hard. But that's not an excuse to cross basic principles of civilization, which we used to all understand, which is that human life is sacred, that each person is unique, and that um, the unlawful taking of human life not only takes away the life of that individual, but it hurts us all as a society. Because really, if any type of human life is legally unprotected, then none of us are safe. Because it's
Exactly.
just a matter of who you decide it's okay to kill.
Now, you're in the area where Margaret Sanger virtually instituted the Negro Project
Yeah.
and basically stated that there are just certain populations of people that are just exterminable. You just because it's for their own good.
Italians too, actually.
It
She didn't like
really,
it either.
wow. So, wasn't she doing us all a favor? Isn't abortion a favorable thing to control and suppress overpopulations and to suppress poverty, especially in places like New York and Washington and Chicago and so on?
Um, no, as a matter of fact, we're now experiencing a population implosion in America. Our fertility rate is getting dangerously low. But no, we will always have poverty. The answer is not to kill the poor. We will always have sick people. We will always have the elderly people with dementia. The answer is not to kill them. The answer is to work together and to try to find humane solutions to make their life better. And we're killing the people to solve a problem, which
Exactly.
again is never a good idea. It never has been a good idea throughout history, and it never will be a good idea. But
Exactly.
unfortunately, as with the current political discussions in the Democratic Party, it's being put forward as abortion and then not having children as being better for the environment.
Yeah.
Um, which is really dangerous and sad, and it speaks of a certain despair that we have, almost a self hatred we have for our species. Humans are messing things up, so we won't reproduce. But that's
When
actually
you
contrary to fact.
when you say that, I think, man, if that was only God's answer for everything, you're screwing things up. So I have to eliminate you. I have to get rid of you. Wow.
Well, it kind of happened with Noah, but
Yeah.
I promise never to do that again. So, but a lot
Maria.
of the property, is man-made. It's not that we don't have the resources. It's that because of societal structures and governments, people aren't getting the resources they need. So, more people who have brains and creativity, the more problems we can solve.
I concur with you. Now, a lot of people are upset with Brexit because it took a number of years to get to a point where we're talking about a hard break. And I don't even know if there will be a hard break from Brexit. But Brexit opened the door for this wonderful organization that we all know and love called Planned Parenthood to enter their tentacles. And I want you to explain to the American people how that took place and what was the effect on Great Britain.
Um, well, I mean, Planned Parenthood has been active in Europe. It's the Marie Stopes organization for a very long time. I'm not sure how, I mean, they were there before Brexit.
Yes.
I guess what we're talking about, what I talked about with Northern Ireland, is more of this sort of global secular movement
Yes.
that is represented in the United Nations and also to some extent the European Union.
Union. Exactly.
People wanted to leave Brexit, wanted to have Brexit. And in Northern Ireland, what happened is that the government up there is in disarray. The two opposing sides can't get together. And Britain took this opportunity to, with the support, I'm sure, of this secular global, very wealthy movement, to get in there and give them a deadline, which they didn't meet. After October 21st, they would have to have legalized abortion and same-sex marriage as Britain does. Sadly, from what I see, I think that in Northern Ireland, this legalization goes even farther than what's allowed in Britain. So Planned Parenthood is active throughout the world. And the really sad thing is the Republic of Ireland was a country that held life as sacred and actually had, I think, the best maternal health rate until they had a referendum in May of 2018, which legalized abortion. But all sorts of international forces and money came into Ireland to try to affect that decision. And I was just, watching some clips when the horribles, to me, screaming and celebrating when abortion was legalized in Ireland, and they were holding signs saying, North, you're next. So as soon as it was legalized in the South, there was a huge push to also legalize it in Northern Ireland. And that's sadly what happened.
Now, a lot of people would say, well, Ireland finally caught up with the times. Hey, they're finally hip. They're
that's
finally in.
Yay, we finally joined the 21st century.
Yeah. But what is the impact on a nation of people when you can abort a baby and it's held as legal? That whole concept, what does it do for the mindset of the individuals who live there?
Well, I think in some ways you can look at the problems that legalized abortion was supposed to solve in our country in 1973. It was supposed to make every child the wanted child, I guess strengthen marriages, prevent child abuse, help poverty. And since Roe v. Wade, all those plays on society have only increased. Because if you tell people that they don't have to respect, or they can decide which lives to respect, it lessens everyone's respect for each other. Sex is a very powerful and wonderful thing, and if you pretend that it's casual and recreation, there will be repercussions, because we do have, God gave us a knowledge of what's important, what's meaningful. It's like kids know when something is sexually wrong. That's why sexual abuse is such a horrible thing. And I often think, like we have these shows like Law and Order SVU, we all agree that sexual abuse of children is horrible. At the same, we're teaching kindergarten put a condom on a cucumber, and it's like very confusing. So it's the legalizing of abortion is part of a bigger problem that's really breaking down our relationships with each other and our ability to have strong families, and a strong society.
Now, one of the things that was most noted in that fight, and a lot of people don't know that of the pro marriage fight that was going on as well, the legalization of gay marriage, same sex marriage in Ireland. We're talking about a very Catholic nation, and the role of the church seemingly muted over this as well. Um, in comparison to the U.S., the role of the church there was so mighty and so powerful, and yet it brought up not the result of the intention of keeping things normal, per se. Um, Margaret Sanger's reach out initially was to black preachers to
Right.
convince individuals that abortion would be good for the community. Just abort a baby a day and you'll save the community. I want to ask you, what is the what is the climate amongst the Catholic Church community, especially in Northern Ireland, after this sensational loss thanks to the Brexit um, move by Great Britain?
Well, I actually don't know so much about the clergy in Northern Ireland. I will admit, the Catholic clergy. I know that in Southern Ireland, because of the scandals of the Catholic Church,
Yeah,
they were kind of told to stay low and stay out of the discussion, lest they, um, I guess, poison. I don't know.
they'd be outed.
But in the Catholic Church, there are always a variety of priests, some who insist on the truth and will say it, and some who don't. And I think that's very much what's happening in Ireland. There will be priests who will talk about it and encourage people to resist, and there will be others who don't. But one thing I read in the Catholic News Service today that was very interesting is that there are hundreds of doctors and nurses and midwives in Northern Ireland who say they will not participate in abortion. And they're banding together, they've banded together and written a letter, and they are worried that what will happen to their jobs if they refuse, but they're refusing. So I think the role of the churches in all our countries is to be brave enough to encourage people to do what they know is right. And um, Ireland is now where we were after Roe v. Wade. And
Exactly.
the pro-lifers in Ireland, in some ways, they've become stronger because now they're part of this resistance. They can't take for granted the protection of life anymore, and they have to start fighting as we have. And one thing my father always said is we can't let the issue go away. We can never let it be settled. We can't, as in some European countries, sort of not fight about it. And we
Yes,
fight about it horribly, but at least we're not accepting it.
exactly. The free speech that we have here in this nation is somewhat different in Great Britain, where if you say the wrong thing, you just might be imprisoned for or censored in such a negative fashion. Um, how important is your voice here in America for the voices that are muted overseas?
I think we're very important. I think what I was just saying about America, the pro-life movement in America being so in everyone's face, and so over the years getting more and more young people. I mean, if you see the March for Life, um, hundreds of thousands of young people, which are not reported in the press. But
Yeah,
when you're there, it's so inspiring. And there are Europeans and people from other countries. I saw Indians for Life last time, and they come and they're just so inspired by the love and the joy and the energy of the pro life movement. So, um, as much as our now we have other forms of media like yours, because we're
thank you.
not going to be in the New York Times, but if we can show the world the energy of our pro-life movement, we can encourage these movements in other countries, because there is an awful lot of hope, because people do know the truth, and um, abortion on demand, it's not helping health,
Exactly.
happiness, families, anything. So I think we do have a great opportunity to um, be a light shining, God willing, if we keep our free speech and all the blessings we have in this country, that we can really encourage people in these other countries to fight.
Exactly. Maria, there are lots of people who watch this particular network from Africa. And the last administration, the Obama administration, went on steroids in terms of forcing African nations to change their constitutions to include same sex marriage and abortion. Would you tell everyone how important it was for Donald Trump to do what he did with the Mexico City policy, and how that impacts nations like Ghana and like um, Kenya and so on?
Well, I think that what Obama was involved in, it again, is this global secular movement that says they are sending aid to certain countries in Africa, but what they're exporting is contraception and abortion and sexual practices that go against the very um, fabric of the culture of those nations. And um, when President Trump issued the Mexico City policy, it's so that our tax money is not going to be funding the exporting of abortion overseas. Now, sadly, International Planned Parenthood will continue to raise private money to do it. But I know that the pro-life movement in Africa is very strong,
Yes.
and the Culture of Life Foundation, and it's Obianuju, and her last name
Hmm.
Ekiocha. I'm not sure. She's and she talks about this sort of neo-colonialism of the West, where these wealthy donors,
Yes.
come into Africa and say, "This is what you need: not food, not clean water, but sex, casual sex, um, contraception, and
Hmm.
abortion." And many of the contraceptives, actually, that they promote overseas, I think, are not used here because they're so unsafe. So
Exactly.
we are we are promoting, and the African culture is very family based. The glory of children,
Hmm.
fertility um, is everything. So to it's it's terrible, really. And
Exactly.
I yeah, and
Maria,
it's some people do it, they think, for the right reasons, but there are people, as you say, going back to Margaret Sanger, who just want to lower the population of people who aren't like them, and that's evil and
yeah,
scary.
there's a certain sense of bigotry which is overlooked in these processes of promoting.
Exactly.
Um, and from my last name, you can tell I'm Irish Scottish as well in heritage. Um, there has always been a sense of bigotry towards a certain group of people, black or white, and abortion is not the answer, doesn't address the issues and harms of our world. Um, Maria, you have an excellent organization that's doing a marvelous job. How can people support and be a part of your organization so that it might thrive forever?
So I would invite people to go to our website, which is www.humanlifereview.com. We have a quarterly journal, which you can subscribe to either in the paper issue, the Dead Tree issue, as we say, or the digital subscription. And we have been publishing on all the life issues, on America, international, abortion, euthanasia, family issues. And if you get a digital subscription, which is $20, you can then have access to our entire archive. So that's 44 years of wonderful articles. And then also, if you just visit our website, you have a lot of free information there as well. We have blogs. We have a pastor who writes reflections. We have news links. So you can really get a lot of information. And we're a community because people sometimes feel very alone in their pro-life views, and we try to bring people together. We have a big gala dinner every year. As a matter of fact, two years ago or last year, we honored David Quinn from Ireland.
Wow.
Who was fighting a good fight there, and we try to bring people together. And when we do, there's a lot of joy because we know that we're on the right side. And even though there is sadness, we find joy in each other. And also, we reach out, as I said, to the pregnancy centers and work with people who are helping the women there. And of course, that always brings joy when you can help people. So pro-life movement is huge and everyone can get involved in some way. And our role is to keep people educated, to dispel the myth that pro-lifers are not smart, not intellectual, because we're being told that all the time, and it's just not true. The best, most brilliant minds know that life is sacred, and these very smart people have to do all sorts of illogical pretzel logic to.
I got to have you come back, Maria, because I want to talk with you about Clarence Thomas and how he outlined in his dissent in a recent abortion case the plan of action that we should follow in order to overturn.
All
oh my God.
That is amazing. I would love to do that.
Awesome.
And that's in the record now forever, which is just terrific.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, we are one Supreme Court justice away from overturning Roe v. Wade. And this woman right here is responsible for keeping that fight alive. Maria Mafucci with us, the Human Life Review editor. You can go to humanlifereview.org, I believe. Is it .org? .com. Forgive me. .com. And as well, go to Twitter. If you go to Twitter, you get all that good stuff. Just follow at Twitter. You can, on a daily basis, it'll come right out to you. God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Mafucci, the Human Life Review editor. Go to Twitter at Human Life Review. You can get all the other details regarding the organization. That is the most beautiful picture I put up in a long time. I love the beauty of a pregnant woman. I swear I do. I'll be right back with more of the best of Urban Conservative Talk right after this.